Well, our theme for our convention this year is soulful leadership. And I was thinking, what does that mean? What does the word soulful mean? So, some words that came to mind when I first thought about it were things like those words on the screen: deep, honest, genuine, unpretentious, emotional, relational, grounded, and focused. Perhaps some synonyms for the word soulful. And here in this country, we have a special connection, I think, to the word soul that comes out of the African American tradition. And it comes out of the history of slavery in this country, which means that things that are soulful come from an experience of suffering. So, for instance, we talk in this country about soul music, and I have here, who knows who that is? Aretha Franklin, right. And when I looked on Wikipedia, I discovered that Aretha Franklin is the queen of soul, but there is no king of soul. So I don't know what that's all about, but she is the undisputed queen of soul. And we talk about soul music, don't we, which comes from the songs that were sung in slavery, that worked their way into church music, into gospel music, and then eventually into popular music in this genre called soul music. Another way we use the word is soul food, right? Soul food made from ingredients that were inexpensive and down to earth and have stood the test of time. Cornbread, fatback, collard greens, black-eyed peas, and it's all delicious. And if you don't believe me, just stop in sometime at Mrs. White's Golden Rule Cafe in South Phoenix, and you'll discover what I mean. Wonderful stuff. We also talk about soul friends, don't we? Do you have a soul friend? Somebody, may not be your spouse or other friends that you have, but somebody that you can really share your life with on the deepest level. And soul friends are very hard to find. Somebody said we're lucky if we have maybe 2 soul friends out of our entire life. So with that in mind, perhaps soulful ministry might mean ministry that is down to earth, kind of nitty-gritty, deeply grounded in our faith and the gospel, centered on relationships, emotionally moving, and as I said before, comes out of a shared pain or a compassion with other people. The problem is, I think for us, when it comes to exercising soulful ministry, is distractions, all of those concerns that keep us from doing ministry in that kind of soulful way that we all aspire to do. The things that keep us from preaching the gospel, as it were. And as you are all aware, the church can suffer from attention deficit disorder, forgetting what we're all about. And here are some things that distract us, right? The budget and the pledge drive. I'll tell you this, all the studies indicate that clergy worry more about the budget than any other thing in their life as parish priest. Conflicts within the church, between groups in the church, declining membership, building repairs, that roof, we've got to do it again, it's going to be so expensive. Factions in the congregation that may be fighting with each other. All things that distract us from being soulful ministers. And let's face it, sometimes we just enjoy distractions, don't we? Because it keeps us from doing the work that we really sort of know that we're called to do, but really don't want to kind of get down to. It's kind of like, the writer sharpening pencils, anything to keep from actually having to do the work. So distractions can be fun too. But if we're going to be faithful, soulful ministers, we have to maintain our focus. We have to make the main thing the main thing. And you're wondering about that picture. This is from City Slickers. Anybody remember City Slickers? Well, the preface of City Slickers is these guys go from New York or someplace. They want to get in touch with their true selves, and they go out to the New Mexico desert to learn how to be cowboys. And of course, they are disasters, and they fall off their horses. They get lost. Every possible thing can go wrong. But they have this guide whose name is Curly, who's played by Jack Palance, and they ask him one time, what is the meaning of life? And Curly says, it's one thing. It's being focused on one thing. He says, I'm not going to tell you what that one thing is, but it's one thing. Well, we in the church claim to be focused on that just one thing. And it's summed up for us in the Great Commission, right? You all know this. You've heard me talk about this many times. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me, therefore go. And a lot of the people in our pew think that Jesus' last words to us are sit. But it's not. It's go. Go, therefore, to make disciples of all nations. These are Jesus' last instructions to us. These are our marching orders as disciples of Christ, to go to all nations, not just people that we're comfortable with, but to all nations, to all people, and to make disciples, baptizing them, bringing them into the fellowship of the church, teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. An impossible job, isn't it, except for this line. And don't forget, I am with you always until the end of the age. You're not doing this on your own. I'm going to be with you every step in the way in this assignment that I'm giving you, this calling, this job that I'm giving you. Well, in the Diocese of Arizona over the last decade, we have tried to make the main thing, and we have focused on sharing the transforming power of the gospel in, I think, 3 or 4 principal ways. One is by planting new congregations. You know, 10 years ago, or 12 years ago now, I said to you, I hope that we could do 10 new congregations. Well, we did 9. So we got close. And by the way, I'm happy to say that the Diocese of Arizona has planted more congregations than any other diocese in the United States. So I'm very proud of that. The other thing we wanted to do was to reach youth. And we are blessed in that we have a wonderful outreach to youth and children now that we didn't have before. We're the only diocese in the country that has a full-time children's minister, a full-time youth minister person, and we have 4 college chaplains, full-time college chaplains, more than any other diocese. This has been a priority for us. We have talked about welcoming the stranger, seeing Jesus in the face of the other. And we've done some wonderful work with those, especially those of you on the border, but throughout this diocese, in advocating for humane immigration reform and for standing by people who are often forgotten or made into political victims. And we've talked a lot about engaging the community, about moving beyond our own sort of silos, as you were, our little protected areas of churches, and to be engaged with the larger community. One of the things that the clergy have been doing, and many of them, especially the new ones, because I sort of made them do it, but they're doing it anyway, and that is to begin to serve as chaplains to agencies in the community so that those people can see the presence of the church. So we have some of our clergy now that are chaplains to the fire department. We have one who's a chaplain at the Humane Society. We have one that is a chaplain at one of the big technical firms in the East Valley. And of course, I do my little part by going down to the airport once a month and being the chaplain at the airport, moving from the walls of the church into the life of the community. In Diocesan House, our main thing is to serve all of you, the clergy and the lay people of the diocese. You see that on the shirts that our staff members are wearing today. What is our mission statement? It's right there. We wear it on our sleeves. We exist to encourage and connect leaders as they grow in Christ's church. Our job isn't to take care of the people in the pew. That's your job. Our job is to take care of you so that you can do that soulful ministry among your people. Our new presiding bishop has a little bit different way of talking about this than I do. You will hear in the next 9 years a lot about the Jesus movement. We're really saying the same thing. It's being focused on being Jesus' disciples in the world. So I just wanted to take 3 minutes out of what I'm saying and hear 3 minutes on a little video from our presiding bishop, Michael Curry. Notice where he begins his talk and where he ends his talk. So we still have a ways to go, keeping the main thing, being part of the Jesus movement, as the presiding bishop says. We have community groups to partner with wherever we find the mission of God. You know, it used to be that people would talk about the mission of the church. What's the mission of the church in the world? Now I think we need to talk about what is the mission of God? Where is God at work in our communities around us? And when we find those places, we need to be there as well. We need to be on board where God is at work, no matter who's doing that work, whether it's a church or a secular group or an ecumenical group, that's where we need to be. We have people to reach that have been forgotten by the church. I used to think our biggest groups in Arizona that would fit into that category would be young people and people who are Hispanic. I think we've discovered in the last few weeks that we have another group, and I'll call them the working poor. And we've seen, I don't care what political party you belong to, we have seen the frustration and the anger of the working poor in this country that feel forgotten by the rest of our nation. We have a new generation with which to share our message and to share our tradition. They're hungry for our tradition. They're hungry for the things that we do so well, that connection that we have to God through our worship and our spiritual traditions. They love that stuff. We remember, though, that all mission is local. That's why in our convention, I have asked you, and you have responded, to send financial resources back to parishes, to put some of the money that used to go to the diocese back to work in your communities in projects of evangelism and outreach. We need to do a better job of empowering laity. You're going to be hearing in the next few months that I have called for the creation of an additional commission on ministry. We have a commission on ministry, but they spend all their time talking about ordained ministry. And I said, what about lay ministry? So we're going to have two commissions on ministry, one for ordained ministry and one for lay ministry. We need to look at new ways of being priests in the world, of finding what used to be called worker priests or local priests that can serve in our communities and still have their day job and yet be empowered to exercise priestly ministries, especially in places that couldn't otherwise afford to do that. And we need to streamline our structures. We're going to do some of that in the next business session here as we try to get rid of some of the bureaucratic baggage that gets in our way and allows us then to focus on the mission of the church, of being soulful ministers. Well, we can't do any of that without being soulful in what we do, being prayerful. So I'd like to end this morning, before we hear more about some ways we can do that from our guest speaker, I'd like to end this morning with the voice of soul, which isn't speaking so much as music, isn't it? Music is where our deepest spirituality is expressed. And I wanted to end with this little clip, kind of just for fun, to remind you of that, to hear some soulful music from our favorite nun, Whoopi Goldberg. And you will notice that there are some Episcopalians in the audience. Now, you might be wondering okay, so can I be that kind of a soulful person? Well, I think you can. And just for fun, I couldn't resist giving you one little clip from YouTube about a 4-year-old that understands what it means to be soulful. And remember when we started with Aretha Franklin, we're going to end with Aretha Franklin. And here's a little girl that gets it. Okay, folks, you can do it. If that little girl can do it, we can do it.